the early morning hours of February 2nd, 2020, the Columbia Police Department, as well as other agencies, responded to shots fired in the area of 19 North 5th Street in downtown Columbia. The shooting resulted in the death of one individual and serious injury to another.
I'm Sergeant Clint Sinclair with the Columbia, Missouri Police Department. This video is a brief overview of the events of that night, as well as Columbia Police Department practice and procedure in dealing with critical incidents. At this time, we are unable to release physical records, including video, related to this ongoing criminal investigation. However, some of the members of Columbia Police Department command staff, as well as city officials, have reviewed relevant available footage and reports. Please keep in mind that this is a preliminary debrief, which is being done to answer questions, dispel rumors, and address factually incorrect information surrounding the incident. Here is an aerial view of the incident location and surrounding area. As you can see from the map, 19 North 5th Street is indicated in green. The Columbia Police Department, located at 600 East Walnut, is highlighted in yellow. Broadway and North 5th Streets are labeled as well. This is the area we will be discussing in this video. Prior to this incident occurring, officers were in the area monitoring crowds and traffic, both vehicular and pedestrian. This aerial view shows the positioning of CPD police vehicles based on GPS approximately 1 minute before the first report of shots fired. Prior to the shots being fired, 3 officers were outside of their police vehicles in the area, while 4 officers remained in their vehicles. Several more officers would respond from the Columbia Police Department. Here are some still images captured by in-car video. The first image was captured from a police vehicle at the intersection of 5th Street and Walnut Street looking south. The second image is from a police vehicle parked near the 5th and Walnut parking garage facing west. It is important to note the lack of visibility to the front of the business due to the crowd and several vehicles parked on the street. Both of these images were captured moments before the shots were fired. At approximately 2:34:53 a.m., individuals in the crowd can be observed running from the business. No disturbance or fight was observed on video obtained from an in-car camera or by officers in the area. At the same time, officers respond to shots being fired. As the crowd is running from the area, multiple CPD officers are observed on video running toward the sound of the gunshots. Officers reported only hearing, not seeing the shots being fired. At 2:35:13, officers encounter the first victim, later identified as Tershawn Kitchen, in the doorway to the business. Based on body camera footage, officers moved Mr. Kitchen out of the doorway and immediately began to assess his condition and render aid. Officers can be seen on video examining Mr. Kitchen to identify the extent and nature of his injuries. Officers remained with Mr. Kitchen until Columbia Fire personnel arrived at the scene. At approximately 2:35:41, officers were alerted to a second victim, a 30-year-old female inside of the business. Officers responded into the business and began to render aid to the female. Patrons inside the business assisted officers. At no time during this incident was anyone prevented from rendering aid or helping either of the victims. Several times on video, officers can be heard asking for a trauma kit. Now, every CPD patrol vehicle is equipped with a trauma kit. These kits provide officers the tools and resources to provide basic first aid. During this incident, officers rendered aid to both victims consistent with our training as well as Columbia Police Department standards. The video also reflects acts of compassion and empathy by CPD officers while trying to help the victims. Officers at the scene requested Columbia Fire Department and emergency medical services be dispatched to the scene. At approximately 2:35:50, the Columbia Fire Department was dispatched by Boone County Joint Communications. They arrived at 2:39:35. EMS personnel were dispatched at 2:35:58 and arrived at the scene at 2:39:59. A second ambulance was also dispatched at 2:36:09 and arrived at the scene at 2:43:26. At approximately 2:38:26, mutual aid assistance was requested by the Columbia Police Department. Mutual aid requests are made in circumstances where additional personnel and resources are needed to manage a crime scene or critical incident. While officers from various local agencies work together on a daily basis, formal mutual aid requests are not a frequent occurrence. Several agencies responded to our request to include the University of Missouri Police Department, the Boone County Sheriff's Department, Missouri State Highway Patrol, and Centralia Police Department. We are grateful for their assistance. When responding to critical incidents such as this, there are many factors and priorities law enforcement must take into consideration. Safety of individuals, protection of evidence in crime scenes, identification of victims, witnesses, and suspects all occur simultaneously as officers respond. It's often necessary for officers to order bystanders and individuals to clear areas or stay back from victims and potential evidence, even if that means verbal commands and physical action. This is to allow officers to render aid, preserve evidence, and protect the integrity of the investigation. Law enforcement may also need to establish perimeters with crime scene tape and block public areas with vehicles. In this incident, both victims as well as a possible suspect were located within 1 minute of the shots being fired. At approximately 2:35:13, the same time officers located Mr. Kitchen, officers encountered a person of interest in this case, later identified as Curtis Lewis. On video, Mr. Lewis can be seen surrendering the alleged firearm used in the shooting to an officer at 2:35:20. Even after the suspect had been identified by 2 officers, there were other officers on scene who were not yet aware of this information. It is also important to note at this moment, none of the officers knew if there were any additional suspects. Mr. Lewis was detained by officers and later arrested. After the scene was stabilized, officers attempted to identify witnesses and locate evidence related to the shooting. Members of the Criminal Investigation Division as well as crime scene investigators were called to the scene. Several individuals still at the scene provided statements to law enforcement. Officers encountered a subject who stated he was the owner of the business where the second victim was located. On video, an officer attempted to obtain the name of the owner but was not provided the information upon request. It is important for law enforcement to identify as many witnesses and parties as possible at these types of crime scenes. Collecting basic information such as name, date of birth, and up-to-date telephone numbers are standard procedure for any investigation. Not only does this facilitate the current investigation, but it provides information necessary for courts later down the road during the adjudication process. As the investigation progressed, consent was indeed obtained from the owner of the business to search inside. However, under Columbia Police Department Policy 322.4, it is also preferred that a search warrant be obtained in addition to consent for serious crimes or major investigations. Obtaining a search warrant provides review and input from uninvolved parties in the form of a prosecutor as well as a judge. In this case, a search warrant was applied for and approved by both of those parties. Also, when investigating major incidents such as this, occupants of homes or businesses are often asked to leave during the investigation if the location is determined to contain evidence. This is done to preserve the evidence, reduce potential contamination of the crime scene, and again protect the overall integrity of the investigation. Anytime a search warrant on a business or residence is executed, the area is photographed prior to and after the physical search is conducted. During the search of this particular business, no damage was done to any property. Pieces of furniture were moved in order to thoroughly search for evidence. The door to the women's restroom was forced open to ensure there weren't any additional victims in the business. It is Columbia Police Department policy and practice when executing a search warrant that property should be left in a condition as close as reasonably possible to its pre-search condition. However, after this search was completed, some items were not placed back in the same location they were initially found. But again, nothing was damaged or destroyed. We are addressing this issue internally as we consistently strive to improve our practice regarding search warrants. It should be noted that evidence of the shooting was located outside as well as inside the business at 19 North 5th Street. In accordance with CPD policy as well as state law, the owner was provided with a copy of the search warrant as well as an itemized list of evidence seized during the search. The officers seized all of the items that were included in the search warrant. Once it was determined that certain items were not needed and the property was approved by the prosecuting attorney to be released, the business owners were contacted. Under these circumstances, we operated with a sense of urgency. We have documentation that shows the evidence was processed on February 5th, that the prosecuting attorney approved the release of evidence at 3:59 p.m. on February 5th, and the business owners were contacted at 4:06 p.m. to arrange a time to pick up their property, all on the same day. They retrieved their property from the Columbia Police Department on February 7th.
As stated at the beginning of the video, this is an ongoing criminal investigation. If anyone has any information, they are encouraged to contact the Columbia Police Department or call Crime Stoppers at 875-TIPS. A second, more detailed debrief will take place once records are available under the law. There is no further information we can release at this time.